Hey, this is Rafael. I want to add more context to this question. I know Holly definitely is providing some list and value and all those different things that she definitely suggests in how to manage a micromanager. And basically, from this question, there's a lot of context that's missing, right? There's a lot of information that's missing around if truly is the manager truly exhibiting micromanaging behaviors. What's the conversation? Because what I know is that many people mislabel micromanagement, right? And they mislabel a lot of ways of people how they manage as micromanagement because one is they don't want to be managed overall. So let's just assume that you've identified the manager as having micromanagement behaviors because that's what you identified as. Let's first define this. What is micromanagement? What is effective management? Micromanagement is the manager telling you exactly how to do things, right? Controlling tells you specifically how to do certain things. As the effective manager is all they do is manage the outcome or the what overall. How you do it, they're involved in the how, but they're more of a coach or support or mentor to get you to the outcome of the what. And I think that's what Holly was distinguishing between the list of one being effective manager and the one being a micromanager. And again, this is all tactics or strategy and how you want to do this. So it's totally up to you. And so what I always recommend is that if you're working with a micromanager, then you have to establish some kind of baseline relationship so that you're not going directly to the individual. Because if you go directly to the individual as your manager, they're going to take it personal. Let me start off by saying that in the process that I teach and the things that we do, we expose this definitely bad behavior because a micromanager does have bad behavior, and this process that I teach and I coach to exposes that. Then it becomes the manager's challenge, your boss's challenge to manage this behavior. So at some point it becomes a management problem of why this behavior is happening. So let's get that out of the way. So what do? If you have to have the conversation with your boss, you always want to set up kind of a meeting and talk about the work in general, the work processes and how work is being completed. You want to focus on what is the objective, what is the goal that we're trying to achieve. We can all agree between Holly, yourself, and myself that the goal should be establishing a culture of accountability and ownership. And what does that look like? If your goals are centered around consumers, what's the end consumer thing, KPI objective, then that's what it is. Then everything else below that has to drive accountability and ownership. So once you both agree, like, boss, do you agree that this is the goal that we're trying to achieve? Yes. Okay. This is the plan that we have executing right now, correct? So you talk about all the things that you're doing around planning part of it and what you're executing towards the goal. The second thing that you both have to agree on is these are the deliverables. These are the things I have to deliver on. Is that correct? Your boss says, yes, those are the things they're delivering. Then here comes the tricky part, or not the tricky part. This is where you'll know whether or not your manager's going to budge on these things or not. Then you have to agree on the frequency of these things, because if you have a true micromanager, the person wants to control the frequency and the updates of those things. Then you have to decide whether the frequency or the how is daily or weekly. And what are those deliverables within that? So again, you get to that point, then you have to probably negotiate, talk through some of those things. And that's where what Holly was saying is that you would bring those things out to say, hey, I would much rather we do it this way. That way I feel that I can be in control and I own this process. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to communicate to your boss, like, I own this. I'm accountable for this. If it doesn't occur in that frequency or in that time frame, I'm accountable for that. I'm accountable for the deliverables that are happening. And again, I'm not just pulling this out of my what. Go to the gallup.com and it gives you this guide to micromanagement here. A lot more context if you really want to learn about what that means and what it really does to our culture. And here it tells you, help, I'm being micromanaged. One of the key things that they do Ask if you can give some input in the setting of performance goals, what I just said. Ask if you can propose a plan for achieving a shared goal. Same thing. If you go through that process that I just mentioned, right, you're going through that. But here's the thing. If you're going through this right now, it's kind of too late to manage a micromanager. You have to do it ahead of time. What I mean is that in order for you to effectively manage a micromanager, you've got to stay ahead of the person. Before the goals are set, get involved with goal setting. Before plans are set, get involved with plan setting. If the deliverables haven't been set, get involved with making sure the deliverables are okay with you, and the frequency especially. Get involved with those ahead of time and be proactive about those things. And that's how you get ahead of any individual that is becoming a micromanager, just like Gallup.com has identified. Being proactive is going to be the essence of how you manage a micromanager. And what if you get to a point where the manager is not budging in any of that, guess what? There's always a boss above this individual that you probably need to escalate to, because again, what we're trying to achieve within the culture is a culture of accountability and ownership. And if this behavior doesn't support any of those things, we as professionals need to expose this and correct it immediately. So here's the thing. Even if you go in there with the list that Holly suggested, say for example, you do show the list, and here's what's going to happen. You show the person the list and they're going to say, yeah, I'm saying the effective manager part of it, right? You're showing the list and they go through the list. What if they say, more likely they're going to say, well, I do those things. I do that, and I do that, and I do that. Then what's your comeback? You're going to go, no, you don't. And they're going to say, yes, I do. And they're going to say, no, you don't. Then it becomes a back and forth about who's right, who's wrong, about what that means, because it's all about perspective. About if you take that list in, it's all about perspective and what they see as them being micromanagers, or they may see it as that's what I do. And that's why you don't want to go in there with that list, because they're going to go, yes, I do. And then what? Then it becomes a back and forth. Instead of going through the process I just said, start with the objective, then go down, stair step down to that until you get a lot of agreements and you go, boom, you got them. Then when you talk about frequency, then you can bring in that list and say, hey, these are the things that I think would create a culture of accountability and ownership. And this is how we can begin building that relationship. So save this video. Let me know if you have any questions.